The Trump administration is pushing a rule change to let hospitals turn away LGBTQ patients. Civil rights groups are sounding the alarm over abuse of trans people in ICE custody. Uganda won't release LGBTQ citizens arrested in a raid. There are only 16 lesbian bars left in the entire United States, and soon, probably fewer. We'll have a roundup of the week's top LGBTQ news and how it affects you on Weekly Debrief. Weekly Debrief is made possible with your support on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/mattbaum to support the show and get some backer rewards. If the Trump administration has its way, it could soon be legal for doctors and hospitals to refuse treatment for LGBTQ patients. Under President Obama, healthcare workers were barred from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. But last week, Republicans circulated a rule change that could undo those protections. You might have expected that a global pandemic is the worst possible time to find ways to deny medical care to huge swaths of the population, but apparently instead they see it as an opportunity. Also this week, a coalition of civil rights groups filed suit against the government, arguing that conditions in ICE prison camps are so unsafe and inhumane for trans immigrants that their treatment is a violation of the Constitution. According to the suit, trans detainees are subject to disproportionate risk of transmitting coronavirus in the camps and must be released immediately. A variety of community groups have volunteered to help support those detainees if released. After Ugandan officials kidnapped 19 LGBTQ citizens last month, the government has ruled that they will continue to be held in prison. Officials are pressing flimsy charges against the victims, claiming that they violated social distancing rules, but in truth, they were sheltering in a queer-friendly safe house, and reports indicate that police beat them before abducting them and trapping them in jail with no chance of bail. In the U.S., LGBTQ groups are sounding the alarm over the rapid disappearance of safe gathering spaces for queer women. A study from last year showed that there are only about 16 lesbian bars left in the entire country, and with venues unable to safely remain open right now, there are likely to be far fewer within the next few months. That leaves queer women with less access than ever to safe spaces, and while federal stimulus programs were ostensibly meant to help small businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars went to large corporations instead. This week's action item is, I hate to say it, but we've got to remain isolated and indoors still. It's still not safe to gather in large groups yet in the U.S., and while other countries have taken effective measures to control the spread of the disease, there's no indication of when the U.S. will be safe to reopen. But if you're staying at home, you can still plan activities for whenever it is safe to leave the house. Now's a great time to reach out to friends and make plans to support businesses for queer women, particularly for queer and trans people of color. And as always, let me know about stories that need covering at Matt Baum on Twitter and on YouTube. And if you find these videos helpful, head over to patreon.com/mattbaum to pledge your support and help keep them coming. And I'll debrief you next week.